Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Twilight Zone review series. Today it is Season 1, Episode 4, entitled The 16mm Shrine, yet once again written by Rod Serling, and starring Ida Lupino as Barbara Jean Trenton and Martin Balsam as Mr. Weiss. And what this episode proves more than anything is as great and a classic of a show as Twilight Zone is. Every so often, Rod Serling wrote an episode that just wasn't great. It's not to say that this episode is awful, but it's very, just kind of so-so. And I don't think it's a fault to the actors. I think they do what they can. They're just not given a great script. So basically, the main plot of this episode is that Barbara Jean Trenton is an aging actress, and she basically is depressed, and she basically just sits in her room and watches her old films over and over. Well, Mr. Weiss, who I think is her agent, it's never expressly said, but that's how I took it, he comes by and the housekeeper, tells him all she does is sit in her room all day. So he has a talk with her and tells her what she's doing isn't natural. She needs to live in the present tense. Pretty basic stuff. So to try and cheer her up, he tells her he has a part for her. Well, she gets all excited that she's going to be able to relive the glory days, so she goes to find out about the part. Well, it turns out that the part is a small supporting role as a mother. She gets very upset about this, says she doesn't play mothers, and storms out. This seems to get her into even a deeper funk, and she basically tells Mr. Weiss that she just wants to stay in her room and watch old movies all the time. She doesn't want to be bothered. She doesn't want to do anything else. He's very concerned about her. He tells her she needs to move on and live in the present. She doesn't want to hear it. So a little bit more time goes by, and an old friend of hers, Jerry Herndon, comes for a visit, which was set up by Mr. Weiss. Well, he was her leading man co-star years ago, and when she finds out he's coming, she gets all excited. Her excitement, however, is very short-lived because Jerry Herndon is very different. He's obviously aged. He doesn't act anymore. He tells her that he owns a chain of stores just outside of Chicago. And she gets really upset about this and really just breaks down more. And, that's how that part, it doesn't really work out the way she wants it to. And Mr. Herndon leaves. And so basically what happens is this pretty much sets her completely off, and she goes back into her room with all her old films, and she just keeps saying she wishes she could relive the glory days. And this is a spoiler alert, but she actually goes into the film. Now, this makes sense in the context of the episode, but I'm not sure it totally works as a dramatic narrative because the way the character is written, it's a little bit too over the top. Do we really feel that bad for this woman? I mean, all she does is moan and complain. I think we're supposed to feel sympathy, but I just felt more annoyance than anything. It didn't totally work for me. And then Mr. Weiss comes by, and because the housekeeper screams when she comes in the room and sees she isn't there, Barbara Jean Trenton, he plays the film and he sees her inside the film. And his reaction is odd too. At first he's screaming at her, no, come back, come back. Then he goes outside the room and he finds an article of her clothing on the floor, and he seems to understand it and almost be happy or relieved for her. That was how I interpreted it, and that's a pretty big mood change from one minute to the next. I mean, was it just his initial shock, and then he got over it and he realized she was happier where she was? I'm not really sure if this is a good ending, a bad ending. The writing of this episode just seems a little all over the place, and like I said, I think the character is written a little bit too much one way. I know it's only a half-hour program, but if some layers of depth would have been added to her character and not just made her so kind of unlikable as a character, I think it would have helped the episode out. That being said, this isn't a horrible episode. It's watchable. The acting is good. The ending works in context of the episode just kind of meh. Like I said, it's kind of middle of the road. And depending on how much you can get into her character, you may relate to it better or not so much. It kind of just really depends on how her character works for you in a narrative structure. So, not great overall. Definitely the weakest episode so far. Now I'm going to give this one a 2 out of 5. I think that is a fair rating for this episode. Okay, if you like this, you can always subscribe down below. Please leave comments. And thanks very much for watching. I'll be back with another review soon. Bye.